Hi everyone, and welcome to Coast Magazine. I'm your host, Tamar Kozlov. Have you noticed, and I hope you haven't, that I've been missing in action for the past 2 months? Well, that's because I took a trip to the Middle East. Now, some of you who knew I was going asked me if I could bring a camera along and make a travelogue of my trip. Well, I happened to get my hands on the Coast TV GoPro and ended up making a travelogue of my time in what many people refer to as the Holy Land. So buckle up and get ready for your insider's view of the cradle of civilization. Enjoy. I'm in Haifa, Israel, in a German colony that was built long before there was even a Canada. And the first thing I notice is this beautiful sign. The second thing I notice is palm trees everywhere. A beautiful thing to see in December for any Canadian. What a difference. Another big difference from Canada is that there are security guards stationed in front of every public building checking for explosives. It makes you feel really lucky to live in peaceful Canada. Another big difference between Canada and Israel is that Israelis can't handle snow. This headline reads, "Jerusalem under siege," and 6 inches block Jerusalem for a week. But what they lack in snow expertise, they make up in cuisine. Have you ever had sachleb? A traditional Middle Eastern dessert made from tubers of the orchid genus? Oh yeah, and it's delicious. Or what about shakshuka? A spicy breakfast dish, which is going to be prepared for me by the owner of this awesome shakshuka mobile.
This is the Israeli egg. Cuckoo! This is the egg.
Wow.
Like a sun. The color. Nobody home. Close now. Good. We wait.
The chef's got a real flair. You can call him DJ Shakshuka. And you can really taste the extra pizzazz in his dish, garnished with roasted eggplant and parsley. Oh yeah. This shakshuka is as fun to taste as it was to watch cook. And these will be the first of many falafels we're going to taste, which are deep-fried chickpea balls dipped in tahini or sesame paste. So that's breakfast. Now here's lunch, typically the largest meal of the day. This, if you can believe it, are only the appetizers, and just about every Arabic restaurant serves about 15 different unlimited portions of salads and spreads before your main dish. And why wouldn't they, when they have an abundance of fresh produce in the country? You don't even pay for olives and peppers here. They're complimentary. Like this falafel at one of the best corner falafel stands in Haifa. Falafel are not only filling, they're vegan, healthy, and delicious. But sometimes you're just in the mood for meat and can find falafel's carnivorous cousin, the shawarma, at just about every intersection in the Middle East. Here too you find free and unlimited access to tasty side snacks like pickles, pickled cauliflower and turnip, and you can help yourself to as much as you want. Call it Middle Eastern hospitality mixed with a culture of nagging grandmothers who always want you to eat more. Whatever the reason, this healthy food is eaten between meals and is considered more of a snack to locals than a meal. But let me tell you, it's perfect for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. In fact, this year was the worst recorded winter in Israel in the last 50 years. I mean, this tree even fell on the street we were staying on. Luckily, it didn't hurt anyone. But even with the risk of death by falling tree, the power of the shawarma craving is stronger than your survival instinct. And you'll brave any storm and stop at nothing until you satisfy your craving. It's that good. Like I said before, it was the coldest winter in 50 years. I mean, just look at how bundled up we all are. And the strong winds have blown all the sand onto the boardwalk. But there's something really cool here. Right on the beach walk, there's a free public fitness area. There's a good idea we don't have in Canada. Imagine one of these in Davis Bay. And I have to say, I'm also jealous of the long sandy beaches of the Mediterranean Sea. You know, the word Mediterranean comes from the Latin word Mediterraneus, meaning between lands. And this sea lies between the continents of Africa, Asia, and Europe. In fact, 22 countries have a coastline on the Mediterranean Sea. But Israel shares another sea with its neighbor, Jordan, to the east, one that's unlike any other. so we're headed there by car. And yes, I'm driving in a foreign country, which wasn't so scary after the first 10 minutes. I'm headed south through the Negev desert. The word Negev comes from the Hebrew root denoting dry, and this dry desert covers more than half of the country, nearly 13,000 square kilometers. According to the book of Genesis, Abraham lived in the Negev after being banished from Egypt, and nomadic life in the Negev desert can be dated to between 4,000 to 7,000 years ago. This road heads south, but it also heads down. Our destination, the Dead Sea, is actually the lowest point on Earth, a whopping 427 meters below sea level. It's the deepest hypersaline lake in the world. It's 9.6 times saltier than the ocean. Actually, this water is 34.2% salt, and salt crystallizes at its shores in abundance. In Hebrew, the Dead Sea is called the Yam HaMelech, or the Sea of Salt. And you can see why. It's warmer than you'd expect. There's salt everywhere, in every nook. You can just reach in and grab salt. It's also quite oily in consistency. Actually, the Dead Sea water has a density of 1.24 kilograms per liter, which makes swimming in it more like floating. Which is, well, crazy cool! But this isn't the only unique thing about the Dead Sea. There are tons of minerals in the water and mud. And since it's the lowest point on Earth, there are less UV rays from solar radiation. There's also a higher atmospheric pressure here and hardly any pollens or allergens in the air. People suffering from cystic fibrosis breathe easier here, and people suffering from psoriasis, rhinosinusitis, and osteoarthritis seek therapeutic treatments here due to the rare climate conditions. But by far, the coolest thing about the Dead Sea is floating. Coast Magazine will be right back. In case you just tuned in, Coast Magazine is in the Middle East this week, and right now we're on our way up to an ancient fortified city in the Negev desert called Masada. The gondola lift is taking us up 1,300 feet. But hang on just a few moments more, because these ruins will blow your mind. Overlooking the Dead Sea is this ancient fortified city said to be constructed by King Herod in 37 BC. The exact history of this site is not well known because it's mainly based on the accounts of one man, a Jewish historian who surrendered to the Roman forces in 67 AD. But it wasn't until 1842 that Masada was identified, and not until 1963 that the site was extensively excavated. If you can see the thin black line painted on the walls here, well, that's how high the ruins were. Above the line is all reconstruction. This is a model fully depicting Masada as it was and not as it is now. But archaeologists can tell a lot about how Masada looked based on the structure of these ruins here today. Buildings here included elaborate palaces built for King Herod, as well as storage rooms for food and wine that was able to feed the population here, which, at its highest, is said to have been 1,000 strong. During the Roman invasion of Judea in the 60s and 70s AD, Jewish rebels fled from Jerusalem to Masada, which was the very last Jewish stronghold against the Romans. And in 74 AD, it took 15,000 Roman troops to finally crush the Jewish resistance at Masada. I know your next question. How did they get water to this desert mountaintop? Well, you can see in this model the mountain was carved with elaborate channels that drained nearby valleys and captured floodwaters into water cisterns 2/3 of the way up the mountain. Mules were then used to transport the water up the remaining third of the mountain to be stored in these giant cisterns. These large water jugs were found here. These circular structures were ovens. And the fun thing about walking around ancient ruins is to imagine what life was like by connecting all the clues you have. Like this building, which is known to be a thermal bathhouse or spa and exercise room. And this was the entrance to the Western Palace, the biggest building on Masada, covering over 1 acre. This building was the synagogue. It's oriented towards Jerusalem. And this synagogue is considered to be the best example of the earliest synagogues predating the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem. This building is one of 3 columbarium towers on Masada, which housed carrier pigeons and doves. But the people here also raised these birds for their meat and used their droppings as fertilizer to grow food. I've always been fascinated by carrier pigeons. They're like the first cell phones used for texting. This room was a tannery used to dye leather. And this structure, a public bath. I could spend forever discovering and deciphering facts about Masada, but there are many more ruins in this country, so it's time to take the snake path down the mountain and check out more ancient ruins. Like this Roman aqueduct in Caesarea. Actually, why not jump on this ancient aqueduct? Who knows what you'll find? Actually, I've noticed these terracotta pieces of clay everywhere, and on closer inspection, it seems that they're fragments of ancient pottery. And they're everywhere.
They're just everywhere, the pottery.
I mean, everywhere. From under your feet to plastered into walls, like at this archaeological excavation of an old street. But there's more here than meets the eye. You can see more than one style of architecture. And that's because Caesarea has been in the hands of many different empires. The pagan city went through great changes under Herod the Great, who renamed it Caesarea in honor of the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus. You can see the mosaic floors, contrasted with the Roman marble sculptures. But as you can see, these sculptures are beheaded, and probably became so during the fall of the Roman Empire. Caesarea also flourished during the Byzantine period in the 3rd century AD, and was mainly used as a commercial center relying on trade. During the Middle Ages, this area was seriously farmed during Islamic rule, until the Crusader conquest in the 11th century. Louis IX of France fortified this city in 1251, but lost it to the Egyptian Baybars. During the Ottoman Empire, it was more or less uninhabited except for some Moroccan families, and in the 1800s, a small Muslim Bosnian fishing village was established here. One thing's for sure, after changing so many hands, the ruins here are exquisite. Take for example this Byzantine mosaic floor, said to have been the floor of an elaborate villa. It's one of the most intact mosaic floors in Israel, and depicts fauna and flora, and mainly fowl. Are we to believe all these animals once existed here? I know for sure there were peacocks. like these ones in the artist colony here called Ain Carmel. And I know there were plenty of camels, because I saw them on the way back from the Negev. But ruins aren't only in the southern part of the country, they're in the north as well. Actually, I believe that you could find a whole lot of ruins all over Israel if you just removed 4 feet off the entire country. Take, for example, these ruins, discovered only 5 years ago in an area called Shikmona in Haifa. But, unfortunately, the archaeologists keep running out of funding to fully excavate the site, and all these fragments from civilizations gone by just lay here, out in the open. There's marble, which is not native to the region. And there's mosaic floor tiles. Oh yeah, and tons of pottery shards. There's even large pieces of mosaic floor just lying in the mud. The socially responsible thing to do is leave all the largest fragments in a pile, and maybe months or years from now, archaeologists will find the resources to try to piece them back together. But the Holy Land isn't only filled with temples from the past. There are more recent religions that call Israel the center of their faith, including the Baha'is, whose temple is on Mount Carmel. But you can only go inside if you're a member of the Baha'i faith. Their gardens and temple are waiting for their Messiah to come, and it's said he or she will ride in from the sea. You can find many temples, churches, and religious sanctuaries in Israel, like the Maison du Sacré-Cœur, or this Armenian church. I like to think the magic of the Holy Land lies in the land itself, and when you walk in nature, you feel like you're walking on the same path as the ancients. Here, pine trees look quite different from the ones on the coast, and all produce pine nuts. But that's not the only edible thing in a Middle Eastern valley. There's wild sage in abundance, and an oregano thyme-like plant called za'atar that's heavily favored in Arabic cuisine. But your taste buds aren't the only senses to be wowed by nature here. There are also some of the sweetest smelling flowers. You can also find dried limestone riverbeds infused with pieces of flint rock quartz. Wild, I know. This valley is extra special because it contains a sought-after resource, water. This ancient bath is called a mayan, and its water is super cold, even in the summer. Some monks come here every day to bathe in this pool. In recent years, people have put goldfish in here, but this bath is very, and I mean very old.
She loves it here.
It's fed by a constant tiny stream of water that comes from inside the rock, known as Elijah's Spring. prehistoric caves have even been found in this valley, and this is where the Latin hermits chose to inhabit during the period of the Crusades. Many scholars have debated the origins of this Mayan and surrounding caves in this valley. In any case, the prehistoric men that lived here were called Homo Carmelenses, hence Mount Carmel, the mountain region where this valley lies. And teachers take their classes here as a field trip. It's easy not to get lost because all trails in Israel are marked with 2 white stripes and 1 black one. When you get to the bottom of this valley, there's a beautiful farm that houses grazing cows. And it's just as much about traveling through time as it is about traveling through nature. Truly a spiritual experience. More about the Holy Land when Coast Magazine continues. It's the holiday season in Israel and we're surrounded by palm trees. I'm headed to a neighborhood called Vadi Nisnas because I heard they celebrate a very special holiday here called Chag HaChagim, which translates to Holiday of Holidays and encompasses the Christian holiday of Christmas, the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, and the Muslim holiday of Eid el-Fitr. Truly a holiday of holidays. You can substitute eggnog for freshly squeezed pomegranate juice, which is as healthy as it is tasty. Or Mrs. Claus can serve you up some seasoned fava beans. You may have noticed that this holiday has a heavy emphasis on food. And you're in for some special Middle Eastern treats, like Drew's pita with labneh. You can still have your chestnuts roasting on an open fire. But knafe will have to be sticking to your nose. There's chalva, a sweet sesame snack, or zatar bread, also known as mantouche. Everything's authentic here and served up with flair. Trust me, those pitas are hard to make. I love how she's slapping on the labneh with a paintbrush. This is traditional black coffee, ground extra fine and flavored with cardamom. It seems everyone's serving something awesome, like this woman's majadara, which is rice, lentils, and caramelized onions. This holiday of holidays was packed as Christians, Muslims, and Jews all displayed their most festive foods from everyone's culture. For me, it was just amazing to be surrounded by fresh, local produce. And family for the holidays. Like my newest little cousin, Elia. Just look at all these colors. You can't get cucumbers like these at home. And persimmon fruits. Not to mention, winter is citrus season. Actually, it's one of the country's many citrus seasons. As the climate is so warm, there are numerous. It's fun just to take it all in for the first time and really feel the harmonious holiday spirit with lots of different people, which is way more people than I'm used to seeing nestled like a snail on the coast. Except not on a cactus. So there you have it. You've been all over Israel. You've seen the north, where the pine trees are lush. You've been to the south, to the arid Negev desert. You've seen elaborate ancient mosaic floors depicting wildlife. You've seen some wildlife. You've been to the shores of the lovely Mediterranean. And you've come for a swim, or rather a bob, in the healing waters of the Dead Sea. You've come along for a walk on an ancient aqueduct in search of ruins that have been preserved by sand, you've been inside old religious temples in ancient fortified cities on mountaintops, and you've been for a walk in the valleys of Mount Carmel. There was marble, limestone, clay, and mosaic tiles. You experienced falafels, sachleb, shawarma, and more shawarma. We took you from mountaintops down to sea level and everywhere in between. Thanks for coming on the adventure with me on this special Travelogue edition of Coast Magazine. I'm your host, Tamar Kozlov, and thanks for watching.